All right, time to get started. Let's take a sip of coffee. Mmm, so good. All right, so we have a front end now. So we'll jump into Livecode, and let's go into Pick9. Okay, so here in Pick9, if we give it an LL, we see we have a front end. So let's just jump into front end here, and then we will tmuxify this. All right, so welcome guys and gals, whoever. We are going to get started on this. So let's just see if this front end is still working. It should be. I don't see why it wouldn't. So we will yarn start it, and it will be so awesome, I think. Let's get a browser going here. All right, and we will go localhost 1337. It's probably not available yet, so we'll let that cook. So while we're letting this cook, what we're going to do today is build a backend for this. And hopefully by the time it's done, as long as everything finishes, we will have our two build systems working together. So we'll have our backend Dockerized little image running, and it's going to tie to our front end build system. So that's kind of the goal for today. We'll see how all of that turns out. So let's create a new one here, and we'll make directory. We'll call this backend. And before we did we used a library, or one of my libraries, or a template system I use to do the front end, but we don't really have, or I don't have anything for the back end. So we're just going to build this by hand, and we will see how it goes. So now that that's cooking, there we go. We got our from index, and if we jump into here, we see that we got our bits just working out. Console.log hello, and this will be our hello. Hello. So when we do that, we'll open this and give these a swaparoo, and we got our hello. So what we need to do is now get the backend server to work. This is going to be the thing that does our database connections and all of that for this Final Fantasy app. So now that we have that folder started, I guess we can get rid of this. No need to have that. And we'll just keep this server running, so that way we can integrate with it later. All right, so first thing we need to do is, I guess we can add a get ignore. All right, and ignore. And the first thing we want to have in that, let's start up Vim here. Oops. Alrighty, let's start Vim up here. And do this, we'll add node modules. Okay, so now we have that. Now let's just get our, I guess we can get in it. Oh no, we don't need to get in it because our upper level is taking care of the get for this, so we're good here. And actually, let's create a branch. So we'll create a branch called backend, and we'll just work in a backend branch here. Why not? All right, so now we're in this branch. What do we want to do? Well, I guess we can just init the file. So we'll yarn init, and we'll say yes to everything. And this will build us a package.json here that has all of our stuffs in it. So this is pretty good, except we want this to match. So let's bring in the same format as front end, and we will grab the package.json. So we'll do pick9 front end and pick9 back end. Just keep it samesies, and replace 1 and replace 0. Okay. So our main for this is going to be, we'll create a file. we'll create a file called server.index. That'll be our main for this. And I guess we could add scripts. We could do things like that. Yeah, we'll do that later. Okay. So now that we have the back end cooking, what should we do? What should we do? Well, we're going to use Express, so let's yarn add, and this will get our lock file added for us. We'll add Express. We might move over to this paper plane app, but for now we'll just get it cooking with Express. It's pretty easy to move over. And what else do we want? We're going to use Pug for our templating. So yes, we'll add that stuff. Okay, so this will add all of our app dependencies, and that should go into our app. All right, so now we'll take a look at this, and we got Express and we got Pug. So we want to use our ESLint on this, so we need to add some dev dependencies. We also want to use nodeMon for rebooting it while we're doing dev. So let's do yarn add, and we'll -d, and we'll bring in nodeMon, and we'll bring in ESLint. And I don't think we need any special plugins or anything for that. So this will get our nodeMon. Everyone loves a little nodeMon. Well, some people love a little nodeMon. All right. So we can also bring in our ESLint configuration. We'll just have to do some modification to it. So we'll copy from front end our .ESLint. And we'll bring that here for ESLint, and we'll just copy it here into backend. All right, so let's make sure we have our dev deps. We have ESLint and nodeMon. Now we have this. So there's a lot of stuff. This isn't for the browser. It is going to use that in Node. We don't have this plugin, so this can go back to just a normal string. Okay. And there we go. So that has, hey, how's it going? SDWDE. Oh, I don't even know what to say. I'll just call you person S or something. And welcome, Thorvald. Okay, so now that we have that, we need to do our, we don't need these ECMA features because we're not doing JSX in the back end. We'll keep the rules the same, and we aren't using React in the back end, so we can take that out. Now that should get us a pretty good ESLint configuration. Hi, Jesse. All right. So this gets us our ESLint, and everything is good to go there, I believe. Now, since we have nodeMon in here, we need to add some scripts. So I like to build these apps to where they would run in production the same way they would run in dev, and we just use different scripts to kind of signify the context. So let's add a scripts here, and we will add a, what would be a good thing to add? So this is our web server. So we're just going to do server. And this will be when we run it in production. So we're just, for now, we'll probably put PM2 or something on there. But for now, we'll just have it run in production with the node there. Okay, we need to do, we need to do some of this, and that should get everything, right? Oh, nope, need to do this as well. All right, so now we should be good. We don't need this trailing comma. Well, actually we do, because now we need to set up our dev. Now dev is going to use nodeMon to instantiate. So this way when we run yarn, what am I explaining? I'm just not really explaining anything. I'm building a backend for a Pick9 app. Sure. So visitors know what you're working on. Yeah, let me see what I got there. Hold on. But to answer your question, the original one, I'm building the Pick9 fantasy football application. So this is just the first two episodes. We're building uh, the back end. We got the front end working and all that. So now we're just getting the back end set up. So I'm just explaining my thoughts as I get everything all connected up for that. Um, Support, I'll check that. I'll do it next time. I don't want to interrupt the stream right now to do it, but that's really good advice. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have this. Now we need to set this up for our dev environment. So here we're going to run nodemon. Let's see here. We'll do nodemon. And we're going to go with E to do our JS. So we basically just want to have the extension be JS. That's what the E stands for. And we want to set up our watch. And we want to watch in a folder that we're going to create called server. Notice we have our main set up here. So let's actually just add that real quick. So we'll do server and we'll do index.js. And this will be the main stand-up file for that. So now that we have that, we're going to watch our server directory. So if anything changes, it'll relaunch stuff for us. Should be pretty simple, pretty good. And then we want to run server index.js. And that's just going to say, hey, every time that you relaunch, go ahead and run node against this file. So now we have our dev stuff set up. So let's get a little something in there so we can test this. So for our index, we're going to bring in Express because we're going to have to do some middleware setup later on. So you might as well just bring Express in itself. And we bring in Express. Now we need to have an app. So we get that just by calling Express. And that'll get us a happy little app. Everyone loves that. Oh, what's the next thing? We need a route. We need a route, so we'll set up our get route. And this will just be our root route here. And we need a callback for this. Right, I believe so. And I think it's request first. You write this once and then you copy and paste it everywhere. I think it's request. Let's check this out real quick and see. Express callbacks. Does anyone in the chat room know? Is it request, response, response, request? Hey, Noise11, how are you doing today, sir? I can say with confidence that that's a person or a, what is it? It's request and response. Okay. So here we set up request response. Notice our linter is working, so we have it configured. We have no empty functions, so that's good. It's telling us that, and we're not using res, so that's good. So we'll do res.send, and we will send it some text saying, what's a good thing to say? Silly muskrat. Why not? So when this starts up, we'll have a silly muskrat there. So now we need to set up our listen. So we'll do listen, and we want to listen to our port. Let's go ahead and bring a variable in here. We'll just call it web port or port web. We'll call it port web, so that way we can namespace this. This is going to become a let's make it 3010. This is going to become a environment variable that we bring in. It'll probably be something like port web, right? And then we'll bring it into a configuration file here in a little bit and read in that environment variable. And when we put it into that config, we'll take it from this nasty snake case and we will drop it into a camel case that we're used to in JavaScript. But But anyway, it's port web because we're going to have a database port, and we might have another port for API or something like that. So to get everything to group alphabetically, I like to prefix it with port underscore and then whatever that port's for. So that way all my ports are alphabetically ordered in the M file. But anyway, so that's why that convention, or why I'm doing that. So we need to listen to this port, and we will do port web. And what is the next thing? Then this gives us a callback function, so we can do some setup, but we'll just console.cry. We'll do running on and HTTP localhost, so we could just copy this and paste it if we want to. And here we will do port web again. Okay, so this should get us a server. Let's see if we got it right. So with our little handy dandy bits here, if we run server, so we'll go yarn server, and it's running on 310. So let's get off of this and go localhost 310. Silly Muskrat. So we got Silly Muskrat all in effect there, and that's really good. So it looks like our server's set up, but that is just for production. Let's see if our dev is working. So we'll do yarn server dev. Okay, so we're still running on that. Let's make sure that's working, and it is. So it is working. Everyone loves that that's working. Let's make sure the restart is working. We'll do Silly Muskrat party, and it's restarted the server. We don't have any watches or anything to reload on the back end, so that will get us that. All right. Thanks for hanging around, guys. If you got any questions, I'm just going to go through this thinking everybody's understands what's going on. If you got any questions, please just reach out. I do this for you guys, not really for me. I could be doing this all by myself. So please reach out if anything pops up. I'm watching the logs, so, or the chat. Okay, so now we have a server. The server is up and going. We have a way to start this server. So now all we really need to do is to Dockerize this. So we want this to work in Docker, and I apologize up front. I am not a DevOps person. So if any of this is going to make you feel a little queamish, or if you know of a better way of doing this, please go ahead and chime in. Let me know. So we're going to add a Docker file, and this will signify our server build, or define our server build. So we're going to take from, and we have node, I think it's boron. Hold on. I think it's boron. Node docker. Did anyone know offhand what 6 is? Is it boron? You can go ahead and let me know. Docker image 6. Off the top of your head, anyone? It is boron, so 610 is the boron. Let's see here. All right, we got that. We have that. Oh. Yeah, it is. So there's boron, boron slim. Let's just go with boron. I don't really care about the server size. So we'll do boron. And now we need to make our directory. So we're going to run make directory, and this will build out our app directory on the server. So we will build a directory called app. And then what we want to do is set our working directory. So we need to tell Docker, so I think it's work directory, work workdir, and that's going to be app2. But since we have app here, let's go ahead, and I think we can env an environment variable. So we'll env, and we'll call this appdir, and this will add app as an, or appdir as an app environment, or an environment variable. and set it to app. So now we can just do app dir and do the same thing here. So now we don't have to write that. We can change if we want to move it to something else. We can easily move it to something else if that makes sense. So we set our working directory up. We have that. Next thing we need to do is copy. Is it CP? No, it's copy. So we want to copy over our package.json. And we're not going to copy everything over at once because of the way that it builds its containers. It builds things in it uses different images or different containers to build and then merges them. So if we copy everything over now and then copy it over later, then we're just going to overwrite. We're just doing pointless copies, and it's not going to work out the way that we expect it to. So all we do is bring over the stuff that we need now. And this copy works in a way that if I move all the way, it'll take everything from my host directory, and I can specify the paths and stuff here. And then the very last parameter is where you tell it to put it on your container. So here we're just going to use appdir. So it will just throw appdir into that. Hey, how's it going? Oh man, these names are just getting so clever and awesome. They're so hard to say. But this will copy everything over into our app directory, which is app. Well, not everything, just the things that we need to actually run, right? So once we have that, now we can just run a command to do our install. So we'll do yarn install, and we don't want to mess up our lock file, pure lock file. We don't want to mess up our lock file, and we just want to go purely off whatever we have specified in our lock. So we'll run yarn install with pure lock file, and that gets us guaranteed lockdown, and it's not going to do any adjustments or anything. It'll pick exactly what has been locked in our locked file. So after we do that, we'll have another step here. So we'll have how many steps? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think on our 6th step, we now that we have everything over, we need to copy over our current directory. So remember, the first parameter is what your host is, or not your host. Yeah, the host. Anyway, the working directory on our host machine. We're going to copy over this current working directory into app. So this will bring our application code and all that in, and we're going to do some stuff with volumes in our Docker Compose, so that way it marries our Node app or our Node modules folder. It gives us a link between them. So that way, you'll see when we get to that. But we now have our Docker. So now that we have our Docker folder, we want to set up our ports. We need to now get our environment and all that set up. So let's go ahead and, well, let's first make sure that this actually builds. So we'll do, I'm not very good at this, we'll do docker build. Docker build dot. When using copy with more than one source file, the destination should end with, see? And we want to end it with that. So that's our destination, telling us how to get in there. So now let's make sure this builds. Okay, it pulled from cache. Now we're doing 5, which is our copy. We're doing our fetch, so we'll make sure everything's built. We're not going to run it, we just want to make sure the build's good. We'll run it with Docker Compose, so that way we can set our ports up and whatnot. Should be pretty simple. But before we do that, after we confirm that this builds, we will go ahead and set up our environment variables now that we have a way to bring them in. Okay, so our Docker build is beautiful as all heck. Everybody loves a little bit of that. So we can, I think, call this feller done. All right, so now let's add our environment. So we're going to need a couple Why is that not highlighting? I thought I had .env highlight. Anyway, like I was saying, we are going to use, I like to do all of my port stuff to prefix them with port in my environment. So this is going to be our web server. And let's just go ahead and set this to be, oh, what should we set it to be? Let's go 3010 for now. All right, so we don't want to actually save this environment. We need to add this to our git ignore. We don't really want to add our local m files to git. But one thing we can do, and this is a convention that we use at work. I think it's very popular, but I know it's one that we use at work. We're going to copy our env into a .example.env. Okay. And now we will have our example stuff so a dev knows how to add the stuff, and they can just copy that over to an M file and make the corrections and stuff that are there. So we'll do the same thing with our Docker Compose override as well. Again, it's something we do at work for these dev setups. I think it's common, I don't know. I only really know Docker from work and all the people there, what they've set up. Okay, so we have our environment set up. Now we want to bring in, or we have our env set up. So now what we want to bring in, and see this just is a copy of that, copy that. Now what we want to bring in is, let's add a config here. So this is going to be where we tie our environment and any constants or anything that we need to run our server. We'll put it in this config. And this will just be a module.exports. And we will call this port web. And this will be what our web port is, and we'll get that from process.env.web or port web. So now we can read that in, and then in our index file here, we'll replace port web. Let's just do one of these, delete to that, and we will require that in here. I think this will work. Yeah, this will work. So we'll do config, and that'll bring our config in, and port web should be set up. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add. So we got that config. Now all we need to do, we got this reading from the environment. Now what do we need to do? We need to set up our Docker Compose file. So this is how we're going to bring in our environments. So we'll do docker-compose, and this is going to be a YAML file. So this will be YAML. And here we're going to use version 2. We're going to use the version 2 of this. Then from there we'll do our services, and we're going to have, this is where we'll define our database, all of the stuff, but right now we'll just have an app server. That's going to be our web server. We could call this anything like web, or maybe we'll call it web. Now let's just call it app. But anyway, we're going to call this service app. So this is going to be our web server. So we want to build the Docker Compose file, or the Docker file that's stored inside of this directory. So instead of using an image or something like that, we're just going to say build using the Docker file here, and that's what this dot means. Now the command, we're setting this up to be to how it would run in production. So the command we want to run here is server, not the dev instance, where we'll put the dev instance in our override, right? So where would that be? So let's look at our package.json here, and checking that out, we see that we have server, and that's supposed to be what we use for our production. So here we'll run yarn server, and that will do our server. That'll do our production mode. And here, We don't want to use the M file, but the problem is we have this environment set up. The M file should really only be used for development. So we will instead set up environment, and this will be an array. So we'll have an array of YAMLs here, or entries, I should say. And we're going to set, what was it, port web? We're going to set port web, and depending on where this is going to be hosted, typically we can do it in 8080. I don't know where this is going to be hosted at, so this can all change depending on the host, how this whole flow works, but we'll just get it working for now and then deal with that later. So now that we have this environment variable exposed, now we can use it all over the place, or this environment variable defined. So we want to expose whatever we're using this, and remember, this is the environment that's going to be used by Node. So this will all just hook up. Whatever this environment tells it to start up, since we're reading from the same environment in our Node app, it's going to start up on the same ports, and all of that will just match. So we'll do this with, all we need to do is expose our port web here as an environment variable. And that will take that. In this case, when we run in production, it's going to be 8080. All right, so now we need to map our ports. So since we might have multiple ports that we might need to map out, we'll just do this as an array. I think it has to be an array, or entries. So here we need to specify what port on the left side. So we will use this again. So we're going to match our host port is going to match our container port. So that way it's just going to expose 8080 to 8080 on the host on the outer. So that's all this ports thing does, right? And then here's the little cool thing with the volumes. So we need to expose our volumes. And to do that, this needs to be an entry. And we will take our directory on host, and we want to map our directory on host to app. So now we have that mapped there. That should be good. And here we will, what do we need to do here? We need to not, this is where we get our node modules all hooked up loosey-goosey. So then we have load node modules, and that just hooks up on that volume. Okay, so now I think we have everything we need. So this web port is going to hook up. It's going to read in, or it's not going to read from env on our production. But what we'll do is set it as a run variable or a run environment thing whenever we start up our container on whatever host that we're going to be running this on. We'll make sure that that gets injected in there. So right now it's going to ignore this. But because that's going to be set up as an environment variable inside of this container that we're running, we should be able to read it from this prosenv. And then this config is going to be echoed out here, which is going to hook up our web port here, or our web server. So if all of this actually works out, which I'm hoping it does, whenever we do, I have it's just Docker, but what Docker really does is it does Docker compose up Docker. So anyway, there's no magic or anything going on there. I'm just going to do Docker because that's what I'm used to doing. And something is not allowed. Mapping values is not allowed here. Why? What is going on? So we have app. That's going to be line 5, which is this command. What am I doing wrong? Does anyone see what I'm doing wrong here? Line 5, so we have our command. That should be good. Oh, here it is. I think I have an error there. So now if we do Docker, yep, all right, so that's good. Now it's going to build the app out. We're going to run the context. We're working from cache. So we just want to make sure after it does this yarn. So if you notice, it's using our Docker file right now and building it out. Let's see here. We do have that. All of that is now working. Okay, now it's just doing the copy, moving that over. And now we're attached and we have 8080. So see, our 8080 came in there. So that's good. So now if we go here and we look at 8080, we should still get nothing. We have nothing. I wonder why. So it's running on 8080. So it looks like that made it in. Let's make this the 4,000 or 5,000. Maybe I have something already on 8080. So let's stop this. There might be a security thing going on with my box, blocking that port. Who knows, right? So let's see if it even picks this up. Maybe there's something silly going on here, which would be a real bummer, you know? Alright, so now we should be running on 5,000. Let's see if it lets us run on 5,000. I wonder what's going on here. Well, I don't know. Let's see. Interesting. That should have worked. Should have worked. Maybe. Well. That's very strange. So it is building. We do have that. This is set up. Port web, port web. Well, let's just go on with our lives and see what's going on. There might be something silly there with the environment. Well, who knows? Let's see if we can get it to work with our override. That's really weird. We need to figure out. Yeah, we'll figure it out. So we're going to copy Docker Compose YAML, and we're going to copy it to Docker Compose dot override dot YAML. Okay, so this should get us our override.yaml. Now we need to do some fancy footwork here. We want to keep the build the same. We want to change this environment to be server dev. So that way it runs server dev instead. Now we still need to have this environment. There's an order of operations here. So we're going to have our M file here. I think it's M file. And we can bring this in as, if we want to do any defaults overriding or anything like that, we'll just bring this in as an array. Again, depending on what's needed in our downstairs or in our production environment. Okay, so we will add that. We have our environment set up. Now, we need to still keep this environment in because we have this compose here, and since we're not overriding this environment and the environment gets set after the M file gets loaded in, we need to actually set this to what our port web got set to from the environment. So what happens is if we didn't specify this and just took this out and overrode this, it would run this from the Docker Compose and set it to 5,000. This should be 8080. It would set it to 8080. And even though we brought in our file, this environment, if we don't override it, will override whatever is in our M file. So in order to get everything to still work in this flow, we need to bring in this port web here and put it through that way. So now that we have our M file, we got that working. We don't need to worry about expose because we're still going to use the same bits, and we're going to use the same ports, and we're going to use the same voluming, I guess. Actually, we might want to just do the volumes in here, but who knows? Who knows what we'll do? So now we want to we have this override. We have that. We need to add to our gitignore this override file. So we will do docker compose .override and .yaml. But the same thing that we did with the env, we want to give devs something they can copy over. So we'll just copy docker compose override, and we'll copy it to docker compose example, or we'll just do override.example. Okay, so now we should have this. And let's just make sure that our gitignores are working. So let's open another one of these. We'll go back. Let's do git add intent to add, and we'll do it to everything, and we'll just GST. So notice that our .m file is not included, and our override.yaml isn't included. So we have all of that working. So that's good. So we can just exit this out. I just wanted to make sure that that was working. Okay, so now I think we have a little something. I think we have a little something working. So let's just do Docker, and let's do a Docker down, and then we'll do another Docker. And Docker down just deletes all the anything that's running, any network stuff. Basically calls docker compose down, and then clears stuff out. It just gives us a fresh boot, and then Docker will rebuild. Okay, so it looks like we have something on 3010. So let's go to 3010 and make sure that this works, and we have silly muskrat. So that's awesome. Let's make sure this still works. We'll go here and we'll do our index, and let's do silly muskrat party again. We'll save that. Looks like nodemon has restarted inside of the Docker container, and we have silly muskrat party. So it looks like we got our build system, or not our build system, but our server working in Docker now. So now we have all of the Docker stuff. So let's go ahead and we can add and commit these changes. And then the last thing we need to do is get our front end build system hooked up to the back end so they can talk to each other. So let's first get a commit in here. I guess I could have kept that running, but who knows what I should have done. So I also like to have an extra terminal open here. So here we'll just do our Docker up just to get it going, and then here let's go up a level, and we will do git add intent to add just in case something's changed, and then we'll do git add p -p. And this is just our ESLint file. This is our emb example file. This is our gitignore. There's our Docker file. This is the example override, so we'll add that. And this is our compose, so we need to add that. And this is our package.json. And I think we're good there. All right, so we'll add that. And this is our config.js, and this is our index.js. We'll probably be changing that, and this is our lock file. All right, so GST, and then we'll get commit -m. Actually, let's look at our log. So we'll get log, and let's do some of this. Oops. And we'll just copy that. And we will do get commit -m. And we'll say okay, so now let's look at our log. We'll get log, and we have our initial spelled just as wrong as it was the first time. Good job. All right, so this has been added to backend. It's not in master, so we're good there. All right, so now let's just put this back into backend. All right, so now we have our Docker container. We have that. The next thing we need to do is hook our front end up to our back end. So that should be pretty easy to do. Again, if you guys got any questions, does all this make sense? I know I'm going pretty quick here, but this is an actual, I got a deadline on this project, so I'm mostly just trying to explain my thoughts, but I'm definitely open for questions if anyone's got any. Checking the chat, no one there. All right. So, cool. Alrighty. Now, the next thing we need to do is oh, actually, let's see if people are watching. If we got enough people, all I need is 2. So if we got enough people, and I have 6, so cool, we'll go on. The show must go on. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to add our bits. We need to hook our front end up to our back end. So the first thing we need to do with that is let's bring over. We're going to set up our template rendering engine for Express. So let's copy from front end. We'll take our front end source pages, I believe, yes, and we'll grab our index.pug and let's copy that. Ooh, let's make a folder here, and we will call this views, and let's copy that to server views, and we'll call this app.pug. All right, so now that should bring over our views there. So the next thing we need to do is tell Express that we are using an engine of some kind. So you do that by doing set, and I believe it's view engine. And from there, we want to set the view engine's value to be pug. All right, and now we need to tell it where to look for our directories, like where do these things live. So we will put them inside of views. So yeah, it should be able to, from here we then map the value of server and views, and that is our views folder. So this will tell it where to look for the views, and we set this up here with our app.pug, and this tells it basically what rendering engine to use or what template engine to use. Basically, I mean, that's it. All right, so now we need to take our bundle source. So to get this to work, we need to take from localhost 136, app. Yep. So we need to grab this JS file that's running on our front end build system. And to do that, we want to put this into the environment. So let's add this to the environment because we want to be able to shift this around. So we're going to add something called bundle, and we'll put this in alphabetical order. we'll do bundle source, and we will call that HTTP, and this will be just what we pass to our source. Protocols get a little weird with this because eventually we'll be running on HTTPS, but we'll adjust that later. Since we don't have HTTPS set up, we'll just do the HTTP for now. But don't worry, that is something we'll have to address later. No point in addressing it now. Then we'll do localhost, and that's going to be port 1337. So there might be a way to tie these together a little better, so that way we're sharing the ports between the two. But right now we'll just hard code this in. And we want this to go to app.js. And if you're curious where I'm getting that app.js, that is what gets put here inside of our front end. If we look at our Webpack config, down here under common output, this is our file name, app.js. We could make this whatever. And we set up our Webpack dev server to point at, anyway, the Webpack dev server is going to serve it from that location, and we have a proxy going on with our, because we're using, what is that called? We're using Browser Sync. So Browser Sync has a proxy to this that's all set up. That proxy's what, 3000 or 310 or whatever it is. Oh, actually, we need to change this port. This can't be 310, so we'll make this 410. All right, so now let's restart this, and we'll Docker down. Sorry about that. Glad I checked that out. So anyway, that's where this app.js is coming from. We are proxying the web dev server for Webpack through Browser Sync, and we're listening to where the bundle's located at. So if you look at over there on the right, you'll see where it's finished. It finished the slash, so it's going to put our bundle name there. Anyway, that's where that's coming from, in case you're curious. Alrighty, so now let's just jump back into here, and let's Docker down and Docker again. Alright, and that'll start it at 4010 whenever that comes back. Okay, so now that we have that bundle source, we need to expose that. We have this little intermediary here, and we will call this bundle source, and we're just going to match the environment name with how we have it, except we're going to put it into a camel case. Just makes it easier to hunt down later. So we'll take in bundle source from there, and now we have that exposed and working. We'll come here. Let's get rid of this so we can tell there's a difference. And we need to bring this in because we need to pass it down into this pug file. So here in the pug file, we need to replace this source with the df this with bundle source. So that way we can push in the environment down into this. So if we come back here, we just do bundle source. And we're going to change this to be render because we're no longer sending text. We're just going to render this. And we'll render this to be app. And we need to send in our local variables, so that's going to be bundle source. So bundle source will now get passed in with that. And now we have bundle source. So if this all works and it's reading properly from that, you know what? Let's do one more thing for our Docker Compose. I want, whenever the pug files, I want that to restart it as well. So we're only looking for certain extensions, but I wanted to restart with that. So let's look at our package.json, and here we will add pug. So this just adds the pug extension as well. So now when we restart this, we will Docker it, and then when we redo our pug files, it should nodemon should pick that up and then restart. That's why we're keeping everything in that server directory. All right, so we'll bring that back up. Okay, so once this is done cooking, now we should have everything just hooked up. We're going to read in from here, and the source for our script is going to be that environment variable that we have set up inside of our env, which will get passed through config here. That comes in under bundle source. That's the bundle source up there, and that will get passed into our loading script, and then the WebSocket from this will just connect up to the current thing. So if it all works out, and I'm thinking it will, we will be able to make changes in our front end, which will still work in reloading the server even though we're on the server. So if we look at 4010, so we can close this out. This is gone, so let's go to 4010. Okay. There we go. We have from index, and that's because we're not doing the muskrat party anymore. That's actually coming in here from index, so we can just change this to muskrat party. Oh, and by the way, this is how we will be passing our environment variables in. So, for instance, let's just set that up too. Why not? That's something that's neat. So we can build out an environment like for this route. So let's do const env is equal to, and we'll just do message, right? And we will do message is equal to, what should we do? Muskrat party. So now we can pass any environment to this. And I think, yeah, so this will be the env that we pass to the front end. So we'll just do this env here, and then that will pass that object in, and then that's going to be available to us inside of our template. So now what we want to do is we'll do var env is equal to, and goodness gracious, I need to remember how to do interpolation. So let's do pug interpolation. This is something you do once and then you never do it again, right? So we'll do pug interpolation. All right. So say we want to get something in there. Yeah, I see that. Consider the placement of the following ... So we have that, we have that. Oh, so it's just going to be the pound in that. So what we should be able to do is go pound this, give that a pound. I think this should work in the scripts. Who knows, right? So then we want to do json.parse, and we'll json.parse we'll json.stringify. Okay. And we'll stringify this here. All right, let's see what that does. Hopefully the right thing. Oh yeah, and then we need to pass environment here. So we'll df this, and this will get us an environment inside of this closure that we can then pass. So we don't need that or that. We still need the environment. So let's see here. We're going to have to get the env. We're going to have to get the message in there. The message is clear. So we're going to start with EL, and we need to get EL in there. So now we'll just do env.el is equal to, okay, and we don't need to get message in there. We'll just pass that into the environment. All right, so that should come in. Let's see how bad this is. It's probably super bad. Probably going to get all kinds of errors, and it's going to make everyone super sad. Cannot set property EL of undefined. All right, so let's see what this got us back. So let's look at our index file. It's the host with the most. No, we don't care about Webpack. What I want is just our index file. All right, so that came back as that. That came back as that. Why did that come back? All right, so what I might need to do is this. So let's see what this does. Oops. Oh, maybe that's the other thing that was going on. Okay, so that's fine. Oh, that's not fine. You did that all wrong, Ian. All right, so this needs to go here. Nope. Right, so I think that's right. Let's see. Okay, so let's see what that got. Oh, so we need this to actually be... Why is it getting that quote in there? That's interesting. All right, so we are doing, somehow we're getting that there's something I'm missing on this interpolation. I'm close. It's doing the stuff that I want it to do. But this can be, so it never feels good. So we want no escaping to figure out where the expression ends. All right. If you need a verbatim, okay. I don't need a verbatim. But, there we go. This is what I want. I think that's what I want. Yep. Okay. So that's going to JSON.parse the stuffs that we have going out, right? So let's look at what we just did. But now we have a way to get our environment or pass environment things down into our actual web application. So if we need to send it any ports or like any API like URLs or anything that we need, we now have a place here that we can pass those environment variables up, right? So here we can do muskrat party forever, right? And we'll give this a save. This comes over, and because it's on the back end, we need to run it. But now we can thoroughly inject anything into our front end app. And all that does is we do this JSON.parse and then take the string that needs to be parsed out. And then we parse that into this environment. And from there, we do our little bring our EL in, so that way we can pass the EL, and then we start our web app by passing in the environment that we've created. Okay, so hey, welcome back. You missed a few things. I got everything working for the most part. There's just a couple more stuff I need to do. Need to verify a couple things, I guess, and then it's pretty much done. Now there's some. Oh, let's see here. We have this. We have that. Now we can inject our environment variables into the front end. Oh yeah, we need to check to see if the front end still works now that we have this. We can get rid of this message. We don't really need to default that anymore. So we have that. Looks like it's compiling. If we jump over here, it looks like it reloads, and we get that forever. Message is now being passed into us from the web app. So I think we're sitting pretty. Next session, we can start actually building out the game logic. Actually, next session, we're going to be adding our Postgres database. So that's just going to be, you know what? Heck, let's just add that right now. Let's add the Postgres database right now. So to do this, it's so simple. Like, I can just do this real quick. We won't connect it up too much. You know what? No, because I want to connect it up, and we got to set the passwords up and things like that. So actually, I think I'm going to call it. We've been going now for an hour and 33 minutes. I have been recording this, so if you guys have issues with the live feeds here or the videos, I will be uploading it to YouTube, so you can view it there as well. Whatever experience is best for you. So let's GST this. We'll go up a level because we have other things. So we'll GST. Let's do a get add intent to add since we have some question marks there. So now we'll GST, make sure we got everything, and there's nothing that we want ignored. So now we'll get add -p. And we want to add that. That's adding the pug file. We added the new environment variable to get our bundle source in. This is what hooked up our front end. And here we set up our Express engine. So now we're using pug to do our templating. And here is our template that we're using. So this is the index page that got rendered here. And here we are just getting rid of the defaulting on message into our simple little front end part, and it looks like that's all we did. So let's go ahead and git commit, and we will do this with a hook up front end to back end and template engine on back end. All right, so now we have that committed up. Let's just GCO master, and we will merge this into it, GST. All right, so let us remove RF backend. All right, and now we will git merge. What are we going to merge in? We will merge in backend. Okay, so now we should have everything here. LL, we got a front end and a back end, and everything's all merged up. So now we can just delete this branch backend. All right, and our branches are good. Okay, well, that's all I got for today. Thanks for joining me. Sorry if it's been a little frustrating, but it looks like near the end we got it all done, got it working. I'm still curious why the initial production build wasn't working, but since the dev build's working, we can address the production build whenever we take this to production after we figure out what host comes in. So next time I'll be adding the backend, or the database, and probably setting up the API routes. And more than likely adding the user. So with the requirements that we have, one thing I know for sure that's solid is we have users that need to be set by a specific time zone. So we will be accomplishing all of that on the next session. Thanks for joining me. Go ahead and I don't know, I do these kind of impromptu, so if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm EvilSoft on Twitter. Yeah, that's all I got. So thank you guys so much for coming, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Talk to you later. Bye.